which was Lily Limon and David Navarez. And so you want to hear that episode, you always go back to the accessibilitycorner.com, and it should be on the Dialogue Radio Network also, the past episodes. And so for today, I want to talk, just kind of go back to why we actually have this show and what the ADA kind of means to us, persons with disabilities. And, the context of when someone says the ADA, what does that really mean? So there's an audio that I found that we're going to play. And so you can listen to that and just don't listen to it, but hear it. Hear the voices. Hear the appreciation that was done on July 26, 1990, which is 27 years ago. And so it's 7 minutes, but it's a good 7 minutes. And with this video or audio, it kind of tells you the perspective of people, even with deaf, those who use a wheelchair, those who are blind. And at the end of the day, we're all one community, which is the ADA. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say that. The community of people with disabilities. I thought I was in City Hall, ADA community. Sorry about that. And so I think we're going to go ahead and play that now.
You ready?
Just go ahead and play that, please.
On the day Bush signed the ADA, we convinced him that we should make it a great big celebration since there are so many people directly affected by the passage of the ADA.
Well, it was a glorious day. July 26, 1990 was a clear blue sky. The sun was out. There were 3,000 or 4,000 people, many with disabilities and their families, on the south lawn of the White House. And the president was on a platform with leaders of the disability community to sign the bill into law.
I don't know how you describe the signing ceremony. We had people everywhere. They were on gurneys, white canes, wheelchairs, walkers, and seeing-eye dogs. I mean, any device that helped people get around was represented that day. We covered the White House lawn for sure.
The most people ever gathered on the White House lawn for a signing was July 26, 1990. Never been that many people there for a signing of a bill before. Biggest group ever in the history of this country.
I had the pleasure and the real privilege to ride to the ADA signing ceremony with John McCain. So we drove right into the White House, and then we walked outside and became part of the masses. The South Lawn was packed with people. All of them there had worked and worked and worked to see the law pass. So it was a shining day and a shining moment. And I mean, history and the weather just cooperated in a way you don't see very often.
I sat with Senator Kennedy in the 89th row back or something like that. And, all the pomp and circumstance began, and we were kibitzing with each other and kind of looking over the crowd, and Kennedy leaned over to me and he said, Pat, I said, yes, Senator, I got a little problem here. And I said, what's that, Senator? He goes, what happens if he reads the bill before he signs it? I said, don't worry. I mean, the senator knew that nobody really understood the impact of what this piece of legislation was going to do.
I now lift my pen to sign this American...
And then the president ended his brief remarks with that clarion call, let the shameful wall...
Let the shameful wall...
Of exclusion...
Finally
come tumbling down.
Finally come tumbling down.
And that sent a tremor through the entire crowd.
Best moment was President Bush was there. He was signing the ADA. Evan Kemp was on one side. Sandy Perino was on the other side. And there was a priest, Reverend Wilkie. And he had no arms. So the president signs the legislation, and then he hands the pen. He hands the pen to Evan, hands the pen to Sandy. And then President Bush hands the pen to Reverend Wilkie with no arms. So he picks up his foot and grabs it with his toes. Like, it's the perfect moment right there.
There was a lot of pent-up emotion and anticipation in that crowd. And when the president finally put his signature on the bill, a great roar of approval went up, and it was extraordinarily special. And then the rest of the day was given over to celebration. A lot of folks who had put in years, decades, trying to reach the point that was achieved that day, let their hair down and had a lot of fun.
Just this feeling of we did it. I mean, here we were, having been told for so long how powerless we were, and here we were with the President of the United States signing this document that was our Emancipation Proclamation, essentially. It was just a fantastic feeling.
It was one of the most electric moments in time. It was like we were transported to another place. We were 20 feet off the ground. 3,000 people were 20 feet off the ground. It was like a tremendous party. A very controlled, love, respect, joy, accomplishment, satisfaction. Our time had come. We finally were recognized as citizens of the world.
I just thought of how much my brother had been discriminated against all his life because of his disability. When you see something like this and you see the president signing it, that goes through your head. You think about this, you think, well, maybe this isn't in time to help my brother, but you think about how many other people won't have to go through that, because of this. I just thought, gee, this is something that I think is going to unleash a lot of people with disabilities in this country to do things that they never thought they could do before.
I had the sense that the moment was one that I would never forget, that there was a ceremony, and the ceremony was very important, but the moment was much more than that. The moment was a recognition of the rights and abilities of people with disabilities, a recognition of respect for people with disabilities, a recognition of the end of discrimination against people with disabilities, and that the spirit of that, the feeling, whole crowd, was that in American Sign Language there's a sign for that, and the sign is, it's called pa. Pa. That's how you make a sound when you sign it. Pa. And that was a pa day. That was the day that you guys saw us as your peers and not as someone who needed your help.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that audio and kind of puts into context what the ADA, which is Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and that technically is our civil rights bill for us persons with disabilities. And as we use the ADA to integrate into society, sometimes we have to be what's called an advocate. An advocate is those individuals that fight for the civil rights. For example, equal access, right to be inclusive into society. And I have acronyms. As those of you who don't know, I used to work for the Department of Labor. We use a lot of acronyms. And before I even forget, one of our good advocates is Stephanie Townsend Ayala. She's the sponsor of the show, and I apologize. I got more into the audios. I really want people to hear this. But like Miss Ayala and myself, we're considered advocates. And the advocate for me, going back to my stories at the Department of Labor, we use a lot of acronyms. And for me, advocate is an acronym. And I'll go and tell you what I mean. Like, for example, A. A for what you do as an advocate, you're going to assist your idea or your problem. You're going to take into what's going on. You're going to take into account what violation is done or has been done. And then you're going to go into what's the D letter, which is, for me, is delivery. How you're going to deliver it, or who you're going to deliver it to. Is it City Hall, City Council, the mayor? Is it going to be your school board, your neighborhood watch? So you want to think about the delivery. And then when you're doing the delivery, what you want to do is validate, which is V. And validate, for me, I always tell people, you want to educate yourself on the issue because you want to know what you say. You have to know it to say it. And to validate is knowing the statutes, the ADAs, the different titles, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's other titles. Know city ordinance, like here in El Paso. So you can reference that as you're doing your advocacy. And then when you're doing your advocacy, you always want to keep, which is O, your objective goal. Because see, it's very important that you have your goal when you're doing your advocacy. If you don't have no objective, you're not going to make really a good point when you do the advocacy. So as you do the O, which is your objective goal, you also want to be clear or clarify. And what I mean by clarify, you want to make sure you clarify your intention and your goal. And also very important is to take away emotions. You want to stick to facts. And the next two letters also fall in line, and they call it under the same category, which is attitude for A, and your tone. See, when you advocate, you have to be very careful on the tone of your delivery and the attitude. Because if the other person on the other side of the table senses a negative attitude, you're more likely your conversation is going to be cut short. And also the tone of your voice, that is very essential also, because with the tone, it sets the environment. So if you're coming in with an aggressive tone, that's not very well. Now, I can tell you from experience, thankfully I've been very successful as an advocate within the city and with the school board, Socorro and El Paso, but that's only after years. Being an advocate, you have to learn the skills. You have to, earn your stripes. And as you go through the letters of advocate, which is ADVOCAT, you always want to keep the letter E in mind, which is equal. Without equal, you don't have equal access. You don't have equal employment. So the word equal kind of defines the whole word of advocate. So if you use those components as you do your advocacy, now it's everybody's different, but what I've seen is that those components have helped me very well in the city. And I do serve on two committees. I'm the chair. Actually, I chair two committees: the Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee. And the reason why I think I've earned that is because of the commitment I have put forth to being an advocate, and also an advocate or activist. For example, there's a few friends of mine, my brothers and sisters, that are going to Washington this next week. Desert Apt. And they're very passionate individuals. There's the El Paso Council for the Blind, the National Federation of the Blind. And all we do is we advocate for equal access to what we need, either products and services, not only to restaurants. See, that's what people think, that when you're an advocate, you want to have equal access to restaurants, the kitchen or the bathroom, but not really. If you really think about it, the services and products should be accessible to everyone. For example, the menus. For those who are blind, for those maybe that have an intellectual disability, you want to have those components ready and have a Braille menu or have a large print menu. So that makes your environment more inclusive, right? And if you really think about it, that's really good customer service. I always say that advocacy kind of ties into customer service, where if you have a good experience at a restaurant, at a hotel, at a bank, and you feel inclusive, despite the barriers, you're going to go back to that particular establishment. And that's why we try to reach out to the different restaurants here in El Paso, and kind of ironic that we reached out to the El Paso Restaurant Association and they haven't responded. And that's been going back 2 years. And what we want to do is educate the employers, or the owners, that to have their establishments accessible, and at the same time, there are avenues out there in the community that can help them make the restaurants accessible. For example, the city has a low interest loan where the business owner can tap into that, that's essentially made for making your restaurant accessible. It's under the community, what's it called? I forgot. The Economic Development Center, I believe that's what it's called. You can always call 212-0000 to get more information on that. But the point is that when you're an advocate or an activist, and the difference between an advocate and an activist wants to make social change within the community, and more or less an advocate is more defined to a particular item or issue. Now, when you come together as a group, more or less you're an activist because you're making that social change in the community. So, with that being said, when we educate individuals onto what our rights are, because sometimes, you know what, sometimes they don't understand or they don't realize that they're in violation of the law. So when you go in there and advocate and use those components I was talking about, you're more likely to have a successful disposition to your issue. For example, we had gone to a particular apartment complex, and we asked them nicely, of course, to make their parking area more accessible in regards to disabled parking. And that particular apartment complex spent over $4,000 with no hesitation to fix it. And that's when I feel using those components that I just described in advocate helps. And yes, there are different tactics you can use. For example, if you go out there in an initial contact and the employer or the business owner ignores you, you always want to go back and reach out to them again. And if they continue to ignore them, that's when you have to, unfortunately, sometimes have to litigate. And there's been several restaurants here in El Paso that process had been done. For example, the Pizza Hut near the University near UTEP. That restaurant is not accessible thanks to that. There's many restaurants that went out. Dairy Queen. I'm not too sure of the actual address for the Dairy Queen, but that's what an advocate does. They make what I just said in the last word, equal. When you have equal access, that brings down those barriers, that how President Bush said right now in that audio, bringing down those walls of inclusion. So hopefully with this kind of dialogue and this kind of show, you want to bring your resources so you can tap into those resources so you can make yourself more inclusive. For example, tap into, like Mr. David Navares was talking about, the veterans. There are more veterans now, unfortunately, that have a disability after war. And it doesn't have to be a visual disability. It could be an internal disability. Like they have post-traumatic syndrome. So there's a lot of disabilities that are not visual, autism. And so with that being said, hopefully with this type of, like I said, going back to this dialogue, we could bring that to the forefront and have these resources for you so you could understand, and then you yourself also can advocate and educate. So that's the most important thing when you do it as an advocate. It's not really to demean the person or to kind of chastise them. It's to educate. And then once you educate, that's the true power of advocacy. When you educate that person, hopefully they'll make the right choice and make the necessary changes to fix the problem. Was that Skype?
Yeah, well, someone had called in, but I didn't have it set up, so I apologize. But we're down at the bottom of the hour, so maybe let's go ahead and take a break right now. And when we come back, hopefully the call will come back, and we'll keep going here.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
So you're listening to the Accessibility Corner here on Dialogue Radio Network, and we'll go and catch you on after the commercial.
Stephanie Townsend Ayala. At the law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates, our attorneys, including Jennifer Coulter and my own daughter, Jessica Clute, fight for the nursing home and home health care rights of the elderly and disabled.
I'm attorney Jessica Clute. The law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala also specializes in estate planning, probate, trusts, wills, powers of attorney, nursing home advocacy, Medicaid asset protection, and guardianships. Call us at 533-0007.
You're up.
Sorry, folks. I was distracted there. What I wanted to do is to bring on someone via the phone, but I guess hopefully they'll call back. By the way, you can call in 915-603-5176.
Correct.
That's 603-5176. You can also text, right? You can also text if you can.
Yeah.
So call in, people, or my listeners.
I'm going to try to call him back right now, so let's see if it works.
Okay.
Go ahead. There we go. Huh? I love this thing. Let's see.
Hello.
Hello, caller. Welcome to Accessibility Corner. Go ahead. What's your name?
Francisco.
Go ahead, Francisco. You're on the air. We're streaming live. Go ahead.
You know, the Americans with Disability Act actually had good unintended consequences. Most people that are not handicapped, at one point in their lifetime, they come across a situation, say a broken bone, whatever, that they're going to need the benefits of that law. And I personally, I'm a stroke survivor, and those cutaways that they have on the sidewalks have helped me when I'm out there with my cane or my walker. It's hard for me to navigate steps. So, you know, all of that helps not just the handicapped people, but our disabled community, our elderly, even mothers that have their children are navigating the city with their children in strollers. That's a big help to them as well.
Yeah, you know what, sir? You're right. When we went to my name is George. I'm sorry, sir. You're right. You are truly correct, sir. And that's where I was also educated. I had a mother walk up to me at we went to city council, and she told me, you know what, those curb cuts that you were advocating for, also are beneficial for me and when I walk my daughter. They're also beneficial for my mother, that she's elderly, and that kind of puts it in context how the ADA has had those consequential effects that are good. For example, I don't know if you heard of audible signals. You know, those little signals in the corner, and to me,
oh yes.
And see, I'm blind, so to me, I thought that was only for people that are blind. But guess what? Those also help those who have an intellectual disability. And a mother was telling me she actually shows her daughter how to cross the street using those signals. I'm like, so you're right. You are truly correct, sir, that the ADA does have those effects to the other populations in the society. And you are truly correct, sir.
And, you know, it's... to name it, the Americans with Disabilities Act was very proper. However, I think that people that are not disabled or handicapped in any way, shape, or form see it as a, how could I say, interference into their freedoms. And that's totally not correct, because even a totally capable person, it does help them. It helps them thrive in an economy. To the business owners that are not handicapped. All that disabled access increases their bottom line, increases their visibility within the community. Because believe it or not, you have people that are even temporarily in wheelchairs that really, until they get into that situation, they're not fully aware of how convenient that law makes it for them to live.
Yep. You know, my mom, I'll tell you the story, sir. My mom, last year, she was dancing, and she tripped on the chair, and now she can't walk. So you're right. Now she tells me, Mijo, I understand about the curb cuts, about access to the restrooms, because it never fazed me until it happened. Like you said, it actually literally happened to me. And like you, sir, you said you had a stroke. So you, at a personal level, you know exactly how it impacts you now. You know, whereas before, like me, I was fully sighted until I lost my vision, and then my contact or my outlook on life changed. You know, it changed where I'm appreciative of the ADA now. where it kind of helps me be more inclusive into society.
No, exactly, because even though people might have a handicap or a disability or something that makes them short of 100% capable, the mind is still a very powerful muscle. It's the most powerful one we have.
Yes, sir.
And we still have that to contribute. We still have experiences that we've gone through. We still have thoughts that we can share from a different perspective than, let's say, what people consider normal. We have a different perspective on things that maybe might bring a new light to shine on existing ideas.
I'm glad you said that, sir, because if you think about it, people that we call able-bodied, that don't really have a disability, sometimes they put their own disabilities onto themselves. In other words, for example, they could do this, they could do that, but they don't. But yet, people like me that have a disability, I went out there and worked for the government. I went out because you know why? I want to show in those other individuals that just despite what I have, I'm not suffering. People are, you suffer. No, I'm not suffering. I'm glad I'm in this position because it actually showed me a different perspective in life, and it empowers me to educate others. Sir. So I like.
And getting to that point of blindness, one of my heroes, and I have yet to meet her because I've only read about her, is one of the attorneys in Stephanie's office. She's blind.
Yes.
But yet she writes some of the best briefs regarding disability and elderly.
Jennifer.
That are now accepted.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Her name is. I met her twice, and I tell you what, she is awesome. And you know what, sir? And I'm glad you said that because when you tell someone she's a lawyer and she's blind, wow, she's blind. How does she do it? That doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's her skills, right?
Because being a lawyer does not consist of any. How can I say? As long as you can think like a lawyer, you can be a lawyer.
Yes, sir. Amen. Yes, sir. If it walks like a duck, yes, sir. Absolutely. And you know what? Because
exactly.
I've had people talk, when I talk to them over the phone or send them an email, and because I do a lot of stuff in the community, and when they meet me, their first words to me are, "You're blind." Like they're surprised. I'm like, that's good. To me, that's good because I went beyond that barrier where they knew I had a disability, right? But they didn't know I was blind. But now that when they meet me, I say, you know what? That's good for me to show them that we do have a lot of potential, not just limitations.
There's so many, how can I put it, experiences that I've had after the stroke.
Okay.
And because I had to learn to walk all over again. My legs were basically gone and I had to learn to walk. It was a process. And now when, right after my stroke, about 3 months after that my wife and I would go out and visit family, they say, "You can walk." I go, "Really? I didn't know that."
Yes, sir. No, I know. I've been there. Is it like, you could do that? Like when I do the yard, you did it? I mean, yes. I mean, just because, So, like you, sir, what you're doing, not knowing, actually is educating other people. What you just said to whoever told you that, you're showing them that, you know what, I might have had a stroke, but I'm progressing. Now, can you walk on your own, or do you use a walker?
Nah, for the most part, I can walk on my own. I use a cane about 80% of the time, and I use a walker about 15% of the time. I can walk on my own. I just have a very, let's say, crooked way of walking.
As long as you can walk, sir, that doesn't matter. Get from point A to point B, right? Exactly, like me. As long as I can get there, it might take me a bit longer, but I'll get there.
And my wife's been a big help to me. She says, "Your brain is perfect." She says, "You can still think."
Yes, sir.
She says, "You're just stuck in a body that doesn't respond."
Exactly. And you know what? My wife tells me the same thing. She's like, I guess she forgets. And I tell her, "Babe, like one time about the remote, oh, just hit the yellow button." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "You know what? I just forgot. You can't see." And I'm like, you know what? I like that. I like that because she forgets that she doesn't see my disability, right? She sees me. And I think one of the biggest compliments able-bodied people can give us is to treat us like normal people. Amen to that. Yes, sir. Or one thing for me, I'll just tell you this funny joke or funny thing that happens to me a lot, is that when people, like, for example, they want to show me something. Where are the restrooms? Oh, they point. Oh, it's over there. I'm like, I can't. You need to show me exactly where it is. You know.
What about when I sent when I sent you a message through Messenger that was a picture?
Oh yeah, people. Abel says,
I do that all the time.
Yeah, Abel sends me pictures, and
Did
I'm
you
like,
get the picture?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, but you know what? As long as we can make light of it and we can live with ourselves in a happy way, which I do, and I know you do, you know, that's all that matters.
At least nobody. At least I don't think anybody has ever asked you. Can you see pictures in Braille?
Right, exactly. No, and you know what? Sometimes I get weird questions, but you know what? When I was younger, I used to get agitated and like, that's a stupid question. But now I find that as an opportunity to educate. For example, I had a man tell me I have a goatee. He's like, how do you do that? I go, with a razor. Well, how do you make it so straight? And well, it took me a long time. Yeah, I do mess up sometimes, but you know what? Those I learned over skills. Over time, I learned these skills on how to use a razor and whatnot. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm just a regular person. I just can't see, you know? And my wife said I have selective hearing too, so I don't know about that. But
you know, I think movies are a great medium, and I think one of the first. I didn't quite know how to deal with blindness as far as other people go until I saw one movie, and it was called "If You Could See What I Hear."
I haven't seen that one. I have not seen that one. I want to see that. What is it called?
Very old movie from 1982, but it is great.
What is it called?
If You Could See What I Hear.
If you could see, I'm gonna look for that. I want to see that or hear it.
It's a 1982 movie, and it's basically about a blind young man in a college environment, in a university environment, and he's hilarious because basically he acts in such a way that you can't tell he's blind. And the look on people's faces, the way people react when they finally realize, oh shit, he's blind. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. But
it's the internet, by the way.
Yeah, we're
so
okay.
You're okay.
Yeah.
You know, they say that cussers are smart people, so you're fine.
You know, I have a great time on the internet with Facebook. I do follow you guys. I follow Hector and everybody else. My name is Francisco Elias. I have a very twisted sense of humor, so it kind of helps me survive.
No, it does. And
then you're following the right person and me. By the way.
And I have a. You want to hear something twisted? I have my right eye is prosthetic. So this is the reason I'm telling you and the listeners to kind of see how we, as a person with a disability, how we deal with ourselves. Because sometimes you have to do it psychologically to kind of deal with it, cope with what you have, right? So I had many years ago, my grandma asked me, Mijo, will you go and keep an eye on the beans? That's when I could see a little bit better. And she said, keep an eye on the beans, and I'll be back. She's going to go to the store. So personally, I don't know, I'm not going to look over the water. You have to put water. No, you know what? So I went and turned it off. And she went to the store. When she came back, she says, Mijo, did you keep an eye on it? But what she didn't know is before she came home, I had gone to the kitchen, put a towel over the lid, put my prosthetic eye on top of the towel, and when I ran back to the living room, that's where she caught me, and she asked me, did you keep an eye on the beans? I go, yes, ma'am. So she went in there and she started yelling, and was I lying? No. I literally kept an eye on the beans. But you have to do that.
It's really great talking to you guys and meeting you guys.
Okay.
Based on this first meeting, I got to tell you guys have the perfect face for radio.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Just give us your opinion on what we're doing here. You think it's important to have a voice for people of disability and what we're doing here? Obviously, you follow us and you're listening, streaming live. What do you think?
You know, I think that it takes a lot of courage to do what you people do, what you guys do. It really does. Because you're putting yourselves out there and you're putting your beliefs out front. Yes, it's necessary. Not everybody has your courage. Not everybody has your conviction. I'll put it to you this way. We live in a very complacent town. And what I mean by that is we're mainly Latino. When we're disrespected or not served properly, we tend not to complain.
True.
So for every one that complains, there's 100 incidents that didn't.
Yes, sir. You're right.
For every complaint of poor service, there's 1,000 incidents that were not reported.
Yep.
So yes, this voice is necessary. Yes, this voice is critical.
Oh.
Yes, this voice is needed.
I appreciate it. And if you're,
Because for the few people that do talk out, there's hundreds, if not thousands, that don't, and that are grateful that you do.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, thanks for the call. We appreciate the fact that you listen, and stay with us.
Thank you, Mr. Francisco.
Every day.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Wow.
So see, we do have people listening. We do have
Yes.
people listening, and so we want to be that component or that vehicle to voice our concerns and our just like a story that I gave you. And a lot of times we do this is to show that, you know what, if we could deal with it, people in the community need to deal with it also. You know, so that was a good call. That is it Francisco, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But George, you do very important work, and you need to hear a voice like that is appreciative of the effort that you put in. Because, everybody that's normal, and when I say normal, I mean they don't worry about effort.
Yes.
It's just their everyday life. You have to go that extra mile.
Oh, yeah.
And I will tell you on behalf of me and Dialogue Internet Radio Network, we appreciate your work.
Oh, appreciate it. And it's a lot of work, Mr. Abel. It's a lot of work, and I just think about the other my friends that are in wheelchairs, where they have to have someone actually help them as a PCA, literally get dressed, literally wash themselves, where I just could get up and do it. So when I see my friends, my brothers and sisters out there in the streets with me advocating, it means a lot, because that means they put, like you said, more effort. They have to put effort into what they do. And now I wish everyone in life, able-bodied and people with disability, would put effort into their lives. And like how Mr. Francisco, what was the friend? I'm sorry, was the gentleman that called?
Let's just say a caller.
There's a caller. I apologize, sir.
I got to write down names. Sir.
Yeah, he made a very good point that if, for one complaint, there's 1,000. For one, and I've seen this so many times, especially when we're advocating for those curb cuts. I have people call me left and right, and I'm like, where were you before? But you know what? That's fine. That's fine. That's why we're here for you, to help you advocate. And hopefully with this kind of a program, we were supposed to have guests today. So I'm assuming I gave the wrong date, Mr. Abel, because none of the guests didn't show. So that I do apologize. I apparently gave the wrong date, but I confirmed twice. So, but that's neither here nor there.
But things like that happen, okay?
Yeah.
So we're not going to worry so much about that, because I mean, you always have people that will come and want to be on the accessibility corner.
Yes, and then we also have, talking about the accessibility corner, we have a website, and there's a resource page on there that has over 50 resources on there, from, you name it, from the Child Crisis Center to Down Syndrome Coalition of El Paso, which they've been, the Down Syndrome Coalition of El Paso, the El Paso Council for the Blind, the National Federation of the Blind have all been on the show. Bonnie Perez, which you met, Mr.
Right,
Brown,
yes.
she's been on here. We've had a lot of people that have come forward and wanted. Lily Limon was on our last episode. So we do have a lot of content on that website, and also here on Dialogue Radio Network. And the thing is, so hopefully with this kind of a vehicle, we could bring out more people like the caller. Come bring them out and have their voices be heard, not only on this network, but in the community.
And not only that, you can go to dialogueep.com and listen to the rebroadcast of this podcast along with all the other stuff that we do. And, we help each other as far as, trying to get the message out, because what happens is right now we're recording this and then we share it. And that's the beautiful thing about what we do. A lot of times if you miss the news, you miss the story. You're not going to get it back.
Exactly.
With us, we make sure that the information gets shared as content as many times as we can.
Now, if people want to come on the show, the Accessibility Corner, they can always reach out to Abel. And then Abel is Abel at dialogueep.com, which is dialoguep.com. And say, I want to be on the Accessibility Corner. You can always reach out to me also. George at theaccessibilitycorner.com. You want to come out and talk about I've had 3 or 4 people reach out to me this week saying that they want to promote their organization, and you're more welcome. There's no charge now for me, but not for the people coming on. There's no charge. you're more than welcome to come on, promote your organization, the services you have for our community. And normally we run for an hour, which goes pretty quick.
Right.
And so that's when, hopefully with this type of vehicle, we could start doing that more often. Now, we do the first and third Thursdays of the month. Now, for the holidays, I'm not too sure if that's going to be good, but it's the first Thursday.
But we're still going to do, you'll have a couple shows during the holidays.
Yeah. And then we're going to possibly have a Christmas party. So there's a lot of things coming up for the Accessibility Corner. We're fresh. We're on a new platform. We're a beautiful platform, which is this, the environment in the Dialogue Radio Network is awesome, folks. You can get a lot of content that you won't find anywhere else. Like, for example, David Navarez about the veterans, Lily Limon and her perspective on accessibility. So there's all of this could be found in an EP, which is, Dialogue, which is dialogep.com. Mr. Leonard Lyde, he's our tech guru. He's the one that puts all this together. Abel's my mentor. He's telling me what not to do. I don't know, people don't know, but he has a stick. He hits me on the leg all the time, so not really.
But you know what? It's time to get the man on. He's here at the recordings, and he's always doing stuff. Have some fun with Leonard here for the last 9 minutes. Leonard, you're on the air, buddy.
Leonard knows about persons with disabilities because I met him through actually a group called Tether Adapt, and he used to do, I guess, tech support for the Tether Adapt. But that's how I met him. So he's seen some of the stuff. He knows my other mentor, my disability rights mentor is Frank Lozano, and Jose Lara. He knows them personally, and so Mr.
Both very impressive people.
Yes, very impressive people. Leonard, Jose Lara, he works at Valar. He actually was a newscaster in Juarez. He actually did the news over there in Juarez, so I'm not sure how many years. And Frank Lozano, oh my Lord, that man's a pioneer. Am I lying, Leonard?
No.
That man,
absolutely.
He literally put his life on the line for equal access. I mean, that man's been abused by police in Washington. He started the movement back in Colorado, ADAPT, back in, I forgot what year was it. They actually blocked a bus on the intersection in Denver, Colorado. There's actually a plaque in Denver, Colorado that kind of celebrates that. So that movement made it very accessible for persons with disabilities to use what's called public transit, which is a fixed route. So Frank Lozano, he actually also sued the city of El Paso, the county of El Paso for equal access for elections. It was him, Burns Taylor, and Olivia Chavez, and that lawsuit actually is now nationwide. So what do you have to say, Leonard? I mean, you have a lot of things to say about accessibility, which you've seen and you experienced.
Well, you're right about Frank being a pioneer, and I applaud all these efforts. It's just a shame it has been such a struggle to get to where we are now, and the struggle continues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The biggest barrier, I always say this, it's not lack of access to the door or lack of access to the restroom, it's perception. Because people with disabilities, we're perceived as either being ignorant or being, I don't know if that happened with Frank, but with me, they talk real loud. And that tell me, you know what, I'm deaf. I'm blind, not deaf. So that's happened before, too. So, and Leonard, have you never gone to a trip with him, have you?
No.
No, but you've been around them for, how long have you been with their dad, more or less?
3 years.
3 years?
Almost 4, I believe.
Okay, so that's how long I've known you then. How long you that long? Okay.
I met you shortly after I got together with them.
Oh, okay. So, all right. But Leonard, and I want to say I appreciate what Leonard does, folks. My listeners, he puts a lot of time, which he didn't have to. I'm talking about a lot of time helping Tether Adapt and helping nonprofits. And the reason why I think he does that, because he sees, like he just said, the struggle that we go through just to be inclusive into society. So for that, Leonard,
it's an inspiration. You guys are an inspiration to me.
Oh, we try.
Especially referencing ADAPT. If somebody can get up, they can't even get out of bed by themselves. And with assistance, they get out of bed, into a wheelchair, get their stuff together, get to the airport, get on an airplane, and fly to Washington, which is coming up shortly. in order to make these issues obvious or put it in front of government officials. And I say to myself, if a person can do that, what excuse do I have?
Yeah. And Leonard, is it true? You validate this. When they go to Washington, it's not from 8 to 5.
No.
It's from 6 in the morning to 10 at night. Sometimes they spend overnight there on a property like where they happen here at the GOP. So those type of pioneers, it would allow us to be more inclusive. And I mean, I can't really say much about that. Desert Dep has done a lot of stuff here in El Paso. So has the El Paso Council for the Blind, the National Federation of the Blind. So there's a lot of groups out there that you can reach out to, which are on the accessibility resource page, and they have the contact information, and they also have either their web page or their Facebook page. So I know you put some contact information too, right, Leonard, on the dialogue?
all the guests that appear on this station. There's a page on the dialogueep.com site that is labeled guests, and their names and contact information is on that page.
And then also, if you want your own content, you want your own podcast, you can always like reach out to Abel. Again, that's Abel at dialogueep.com, and he was talk to you about how it works, and so we're also looking for more content. I know he's going to be on this Saturday, right, Abel?
Yes.
And he's going to be talking about political issues going on here in El Paso. Last week, folks.
Duranguito.
Yeah, last week he had Max Grossman and Mike Patino from the plaza. I can't say that, Jungle. I can't say that. I don't know why. I have a hard time saying that. But so, folks, this is the new vehicle that we're going to be using. You can always reach out to us on the first and third Thursday of the month from 3 to 4 p.m. And also Leonard, hopefully one day we have with his own show. And of course, Abel is available on every Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m.
Yes.
And he's going to be on this with Hector? Or Hector?
I'm going to try to get Hector.
Hector's. Yeah, you can use Hector's. So I don't know how much time we have left in the show.
3 minutes.
3 more minutes. So again, you always want to reach out to to my website, which is www.theaccessibilitycorner.com. Now I know the pictures on that website are not appropriate or don't go along with the theme, but I put it together. So the content is what you really want to look at. There's links on there for the Dialogue Radio Network. There's also episodes, past episodes, and they're going to be the current episode will be playing on the front page. We have a Facebook page also, the Accessibility Corner. You can also look for me, George Zavala. And also on that network, our accessibilitycorner.com, there's also a Lyft page. The Lyft page is for those individuals that use the paratransit. It has all the contact information. It has the contact information for the management and the phone numbers. So go and check that website out, see what you think. Hopefully it could grow more. Leonard kind of helped me with the other website we had, the United Advocacy of El Paso. So like I said, there's a lot of mechanisms here in the community. Reach out to us, call in. Number is next time for the show is 915-603-5176. And we had a good show today.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you, Abel.
I want to thank all our listeners, and I hope that you'll stay with us. We will be bringing you content of interest. Last week was a very hot issue because of the Duranguito controversy or confrontation, however you want to label it. But it's a victory, I believe. I believe it's going to be a big victory for El Paso.
Yes, it is. And did you see where the property owners want to sue the city now? $5 million, I heard.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. By the way, for our next show will be October the 5th, and our guest will be Veronica Escobar. She will be talking about the medical component, what she thinks about Medicaid and whatnot as she runs for Congress. So hopefully with that, you want to tune in for that. It will be Veronica Escobar at 3 p.m. October the 5th, which is a Thursday. And again, you can always call in at 603-5176.
You got a minute left. Go ahead.
Got a minute? Okay. I'm not sure because, see, what happens, listeners, is Abel keeps showing me signs that I can't see him. Like, what's up, Abel? But again, hopefully everyone enjoyed this conversation. The caller, thank you very much, sir, for calling in. You gave some very good points. And it kind of helps to have two perspectives rather than just mine. So we came to an end of the Accessibility Corner, brought to you by Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates. We will see you again on October the 5th with Veronica Escobar.